In this video, we're going to be creating a basic NPC that the player can interact with. The NPC is going to display a simple dialogue message when the player gets close and presses the interact key. We're going to break this up into two videos, so in this video it's just going to be the basic setup, but at the end of this we will be able to actually interact with our NPC and give us something that we can really build off of in the next video. So I've already added some assets to my folder. I will link them in the description. It's going to be in the same style of assets from the same creator that we've been using. And the first thing we're going to do, let's go and create a new character body 2D scene. We're just going to name this NPC. So we're going to create our base NPC. I'm also going to just add a script to this. We can go ahead and save. We're going to create a new NPC folder. So we'll just save that in there. Let me make sure I put the NPC script in that folder as well. And let's start writing this out. We're not going to need any of this code right here. We are going to give this a class name since we want to be able to inherit from this. Let's call it NPC. And we're going to need a few nodes in here. So let's just add those right now. We're going to need a sprite. We're going to need a collision shape. And we're going to need an animation player. We're going to have our sprite and our animation player as on ready, so we can just go ahead and add those. We are going to have a signal for our dialogue started and a dialogue ended. And we're going to have a couple of export variables. We're going to have the NPC name, which is going to be a string. It's going to default to John, I guess. And another export variable for our profile texture, which will be a texture 2D. And we're going to have one variable for isInDialogue. So isInDialogue is going to be able to allow us to back out of any specific actions that we don't want happening while we're in dialogue. We're going to have a ready method here, but it actually is only going to be pass. We may come back and add on to this, but our bridge guard, we're going to make the NPC that we're going to have blocking the way for our player to cross that bridge. He's going to have specific stuff in his ready method, but we might add on to what is in the base NPC class ready method to begin with, and we can't inherit from the ready method if we don't create it in our base class. And then we're just going to have two basic other functions here for our start dialogue. All we're going to do is InDialogue becomes true, and we emit our dialogue started signal, and then endDialogue InDialogue will be false now, and we want to emit our dialogue ended signal. Okay, we don't have to do anything else in this scene right now, but before we go ahead and make our bridge guard, I want to make the dialogue area. So the dialogue area is going to be the area where if the player's inside of it and presses interact, they're going to actually trigger an action from the NPC. So we're just going to make this an area 2D. It's going to need a collision shape, which will be assigned on each specific instance that we use it. Let's rename it to dialogue area. We can save this. It will not be inside of the NPC folder. Let's make another dialogue directory and save it in there. Let's attach a script to it. We can save it. We're going to give this a class name of dialogue area. We're going to need a signal here for our dialogue triggered, which we will get a dialogue set, which is going to be a resource that is going to hold an array of dialogues. We'll create that after we get this base stuff set up. Then we're going to have an export variable for our dialogue sets, which is going to be an array, default to an empty one, and another export variable for our current set index, which is an integer, default to 0. So this is going to help us if we have multiple dialogue. It will end up dictating which set of dialogue in the array we're going to be referencing. Let's finish this out quickly though. We are not going to need the ready or process. We are going to connect to some signals though. We want to do onBody entered, and we want to do the onBody exited. And then we're also going to have the unhandled input method. In the onBody entered and exited, we're going to be checking if the player is in range of the NPC. So let's have a player in range method or variable here, which is a bool and will default to false. And then in the onBodyEntered, if the body is our character, then we can do playerInRange is true. Let's copy this. If the body is character, we will be false. In unhandled input, I'm going to check if the event is action pressed, and it will be interact, which we will set up right after this, and playerInRange. If not, dialog sets is empty. So if we have dialog, we're going to get the NPC, which is going to equal to the getParent. If getParent is NPC, otherwise it's going to be null. And then we get our dialog triggered, emit that signal, and we pass in the dialog sets at the current set index. And then we pass in our NPC. So let's set up the input mapping right now. Let's go create an interact input mapping. And for me, I'm going to put this on the E key. And now let's go create the dialog set resource so we can get rid of this error. So let's go to our dialog folder here, and we're going to create a new script. We'll call it dialog set. We can open this up, and we're going to give this a class name of dialog set. And we're not going to extend the node, we're going to extend a resource. And all in here, we're just going to have a couple of export variables. So we're going to have an export variable for our dialogues, which is an array, default to empty. We're going to have an export variable for conditions, which will be a dictionary, that will be empty. And then we're going to have, lastly, this is optional, but we're going to have a onComplete callback, which will be a string. We'll just default it to empty. So this will be optional. We might make use of this later, but we're just going to have this set up in our dialog set for right now. Now we're going to be able to make our bridge guard NPC. So we're going to close these scenes. We don't need these right now. We're going to instantiate from a child scene. So let's go find our NPC scene. We'll save this. We're going to call him the bridge guard. Let's give him a name, bridge guard. And now that we have the dialog area, we're also going to want this on all of our NPCs. So let's actually bring up the base NPC scene, and we're going to drag the dialog area in here along with a collision shape so that all of our future NPCs, when they inherit from this class, are going to have those. So now we have this all set up here. So let's go into our 2D window view, and we're going to start setting up this sprite. So let's go to our assets folder, into MVC. I'm going to use Little John. I think he looks like a good bridge guard, and the offset here is going to be 8 by 6. Set a basic collision shape. I'm just going to use a rectangle. This doesn't need to be perfect because Little John's going to have a very small part to play in our game. And then in our dialogue area, I'm actually going to make sure that this dialogue area in our base scene is going to be, we don't need a layer on it, and we need to have a mask with our player. So no layer, mask on 5 for our player. And that should carry over now since we're inheriting that scene. And we can make our dialogue areas collision shape. I'm going to make this another rectangle. Let me make this a different color so it's a little bit more obvious. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. We want there to be, you know, some leeway for where our player can actually interact with this guy. So I think that's good for now. Then we have to set up the animation player. So these will be really quick. We're going to have an idle. It's only going to be 0.6 seconds, and we'll snap on 0.2. Let's go to our sprite, do this real quick. Our frame here, we're just going to key in first frame here. There we go. That should be our walking or our idle animation. We're going to make that the default. Let's just duplicate this, call it walk, and this will be at, I believe, 8. It is the frame that we want. Yep. This will be 9, 10, and 11. So there's our walk. A little bit different, but these are really basic sprites, so these will work out really well. So let's save that. But we're going to have a specific script for our bridge guard. So we want to detach the base NPC script here. We're going to create a new script, except we're going to extend from NPC. Get rid of these constants. We're going to create a signal for bridge cleared. We're going to have an export variable for our move position, which we're going to end up covering in the next tutorial. This is going to be where does the bridge guard move after we interact and say that we want to pass the bridge. Let's get rid of the physics process. We don't get those errors, but we have another export variable of character name. This is a string, and I don't know, I'm going to call him Lil John, just to go with his sprite name. Then we're going to have a variable for has said yes, which is a bool, and false. This is going to be state tracking to see if our character has said yes to wanting to pass the bridge. And we're just going to have a couple of basic methods here. So we're going to have our ready method, which this is why we have the super on the ready inside of our NPC. If we didn't have this pass here, we wouldn't be able to do this. So this just kind of future-proofs us a little bit. So go back to the bridge guard here, and we're going to want to access our dialogue area. And that's going to mean we have to go back to our base NPC. Let's drag the dialogue area as an onReady. So now we'll have access to all of these within our bridge guard. So we can get the dialogue area. We're going to get the dialogue sets. And those are going to equal to an array. And we're going to do create initial dialogue. And we're going to make that method right now, but that's all that we're going to have to do here. So now we can create this method, and we're just going to return a dialog set. In here, we need to create a new one. We're going to do this programmatically. So we're going to create a dialog set dot new. We're going to do our set dot dialogues. It's going to equal an array, and we need to make a dictionary then. And we're going to have the speaker is going to be our character name. And the text is going to be halt. You cannot pass this bridge. It is too dangerous. After that, we're just going to return the set. In the next video, we're going to expand on this. So we want to be able to give our character choices to choose from, yes or no. If we say yes, the guy moves out of the way. If he says no, when you come back, he'll know that you visited him the first time and have a slightly different prompt to see if you want to cross the bridge. Then we need to create a method for on dialogue finished, which is a choice and string. And we're going to expand on this more in the next video so we can actually make the bridge guard move out of the way. But we're going to see if choice is equal to yes and not has said yes equals true. So we're making progress here, but we don't really have anything to show for it yet. We haven't added the bridge guard to our level. We haven't even built the UI yet. So that's what we're going to do next. But while we're here, let's just bring up the test level. And let's go to our 2D here, and let's place the bridge guard. I'm going to put him right there. So there's no way that the character can get around. And if we go and play this, I have the debug shapes on. We can go over, we're going to be able to see our guy, but nothing is going to happen. Pressing interact, nothing happens. So I am going to turn those shapes off though, and let's start creating our dialogue UI interface. So let's create a canvas layer. I'm going to call this dialogue UI. You can save this, we'll put this in our dialogue directory, and let's get the rest of the child nodes set up. So we're going to want a panel container. This is going to be called the dialog box. There's going to be a child in here of a margin container. Inside of the margin container, we're going to have a VBox container. Inside of the VBox, we're going to have an HBox. Inside of that HBox, we're going to have a VBox. We're also going to have an H separator. And then in this VBox, we're going to have a label, and we're going to have another label. The first label is going to be the speaker name. The second label is just going to be the text. And now we want to actually have this placed. So let's go to the dialog box. I'm going to have this on the bottom center. We're going to have the layout custom minimum size of about 200 by 100. That seems to be a little bit big. Maybe we'll do 50 here. Just the H separator we are going to want to fill. Do want some margins in here though. I think it's where we're going to want to put it on our margin container. We're going to do 20s on all sides. Okay, let's start writing the script for this just so we can start populating and actually get some stuff on the screen for us. So let's save this. Let's add a script to the dialog UI. Get rid of all of this. We are going to need a few onreadies here. We're going to need the dialog box, the speaker name, and the text. Whoops, let's get those as onreadies. We're going to have a variable for typing speed. This is going to be the speed at which the characters are typed onto the screen. I don't want them all to just flash immediately. I want them to show up, one letter at a time. I get a variable for is typing, so bool can equal false, and a variable for our full text, which is a string, and it defaults to an empty one. We're going to have three methods here. We're going to have a show dialog method, which takes in current, which is a dictionary. We're going to have a start typing method and a hide dialog method. We can start in the hide dialog because this is the easiest low-hanging fruit. We just get our dialog box and we hide it. In show dialog, we need to get our dialog box and show it. We're going to get the speaker name dot text. It's going to be the current dot speaker. Then we're going to get the full text. It's going to be equal to the current dot text. Text dot text is an empty string just to clear us out. And then we're going to move to start typing. In start typing, we're going to get is typing, make it true. We get a variable for the displayed length, which is going to be equal to 0. And then we're going to do while displayed length. So we're going to while loop through this when we're less than the full text dot length. And we're typing. Text dot text is going to equal the full text. We're going to get a substring of it. We're going to pass in 0, and then the displayed length plus 1. Displayed length plus equals 1. Await on the get tree. Create timer. And then we're going to pass in that typing speed. Timeout. After this while loop, we need to make sure that we reset is typing back to false. Then text.text will just be equal to the full text. We're going to make it so that if the user is making a key press or clicks the mouse button, that it's going to just fast forward and just display the full text right away, but that will be something that we can implement a little bit later. Okay, and the last major piece to this is going to be a new auto load for us. So we're going to go up to our auto loads. We're going to create a new script, and this is going to be our dialog manager. So this is going to help us manage everything that we've made so far. And before I forget, project settings, globals, and let's make sure that we add this dialog manager into our globals. And we aren't going to need any of the ready or process methods. We're going to need a signal though for our dialog finished. We're going to have a dialog scene, which is a packed scene. It's going to be a preload on our dialog UI scene, actually. So why don't we call this the dialog UI scene, just so we're a little bit more explicit. And we're going to get the dialog UI, which is a canvas layer. We're going to have a variable for our current dialog, which is an array. We're going to have a variable for our dialog index, which is 0. Is dialog active Boolean, which is false, and a current NPC, which is an NPC, and it will default to null. And in here, we're going to have the enter tree method. It's one that we haven't used yet. We're going to have a start dialog method, which takes in dialogue data, which is an array, and an NPC, which is an NPC, and we're still just going to default this to null. We don't return anything here. We're going to have a display current dialogue. We're going to use our input method, and we're going to have an end dialogue method. Okay, let's start up at the top at enter tree. We're going to get our dialogue UI, and it's going to be equal to our dialogue UI scene, instantiate it. We're going to add a child to our scene. It will be the dialogue UI, and then we go to our dialogue UI and we hide it so we don't see this right off the bat. In our start dialogue, we're going to check if the dialogue is active. I realized I jumped ahead here. Boolean should be is dialogue active. So that makes a little bit more sense now. So if we are active, we're just going to return. Otherwise, the current NPC is equal to the NPC. The current dialogue is going to be equal to the dialogue data. The dialogue index will be 0. Is dialogue active will be set to true now. And then we go to display current dialogue. So this dialogue data and the NPC is coming from this dialogue area. So this is where we are passing this through right here. We're passing in the dialogue sets and then the NPC. In our display current dialogue, we're going to get the if dialogue index is greater than or equal to the current dialogue's size. We're going to end our dialogue and return. Otherwise, we need to get the current, which is going to be the current dialogue at the dialogue index. We're going to get the dialogue UI. We're going to show it. Then we get the dialogue UI. Then we show dialogue and pass in the current. Let's go down to the end dialogue first. And in here, we're going to set is dialogue active equal to false. We get our dialogue UI. We want to hide dialogue. We check if we have a current NPC, end dialogue. And then we need to reset the current NPC back to null. Then we emit our dialogue finish signal. In the input, this is where we're going to speed up the text if someone clicks a button or a mouse click. So first we need to check if not, is dialogue active. We just return. We can give us some more space here. Then we're going to have a if on event is input event key and the event is pressed, or the event is input event or input mouse event button. Oh, I get that backwards. Input event mouse button and event dot pressed. If dialogue UI dot is typing, dialogue UI dot is typing. We want to set that to false since we're going to speed this up. And then we just get the dialogue UI. We get the text dot text, and we want to set the dialogue UI's full text to it. Otherwise, the dialogue index plus equals 1. So we want to go to the next dialogue, and we want to display current dialogue. All right, so that was a lot, and I promise we have one more thing we're going to do, and then we have one cleanup thing that we're going to do. So we need to go into our test level here. Let's bring this up. So we need a reference to our bridge guard, so let's make him an onReady. We need to make sure he is the type of NPC, and that's going to be important because we're going to need access to this dialogue area. So in our test level script, in our ready method, we need to get our bridge guard, we need to get his dialogue area, and then we need to tap into the dialogue triggered method, or signal rather, and then we need to connect to it. So we're going to be connecting into this signal right here. What we're going to do inside of this is we're actually going to create a one-off method here. So we're going to do a function. We pass in the dialogue set, which is going to be equal to a dialogue set, and NPC, which is NPC. And we're going to get the variable for our player name, which is going to be equal to the game manager dot character name, which we actually need to go in and update. We're going to get a variable for the current set, which is equal to the dialog set and the dialogues. The current set at the index of 0, player name equals player name, and the dialog manager, start dialog, get the current set and the NPC. Lastly, we go into our dialog manager, dialog finished, connect, we give it the bridge guard dot on dialog finished. So if we go into our bridge guard, that's what we're tapping into. Just to wrap this up, let's go to our character real quick and give him an export variable of character name, which is a string, and I'm just going to give him my name. Okay, so that was a lot, and let's go in and actually see if we can have this set up. Okay, spelling errors on my end. Here we go. All right, we can still do this drag and drop here. Let's go find our bridge guard. Here he is. I press E. Okay, so this is working a little bit, but this is the vibe that we're going for. I don't like this font, but we've made some progress. We just have to do a little bit of styling now. We also aren't going to want this to still show. I don't want this to be able to be visible while we're doing this. So let's go fix some of these styling issues. So in the dialog screen, or sorry, the dialog UI here, in both of these, I'm going to select both. We are going to do theme overrides on the font. Let's quick load this. I'm going to use that same bit potion. The speaker name, I'm going to have an override on the font size. I'm going to make this 16. Let's also just type in speaker here. I'm going to make the speaker name all uppercase, and then text what the character is saying. Okay, so this H separator should be more like that, so there we are. I'm going to have the text here be a little bit smaller. Make it 12. Okay. We also want the text to wrap here. We don't want it to keep extending out to the right or left. So let's see if we can fix that real quick. Let's go to our text here. We want to auto wrap. We're going to do that on the word. And the VBox container is going to need a container sizing. We're going to expand to the right. So now this should start wrapping. So let's, actually, just to make this a little bit quicker, let's go to our 2D scene, and I want to drag the default node, or the default character spawn, to be a little bit closer to our guy. There we go. This looks a lot better. There we go, and we got some wrapping. We are, in the next video, we're going to do some more styling to this. We're going to add the buttons, we're going to add a profile picture of who's talking, and we're going to add hiding here. And the last thing that we're going to do right now is I want to make some adjustments to our state machine on handling the input. So in our last video, we did this mouse position here when we're entering the attack state. I don't really like this because this is in the attack state and this isn't really referencing attack. So we're going to cut that out, and we're going to go into our state machine. And in change state, I'm just going to put this here, and we can just get rid of this line that was unnecessary. So now this is going to be handled whenever we change state. We're going to check on these slots. We're also going to do something similar for our dialog manager. So if dialog manager is dialog active, we just return. And that wraps up this video. I know this was a lot of code, but thanks for sticking around. And in the next video, it should be a little bit less code, or there'll be a little bit more of a visual, pleasing visuals as we're working through it. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and hope to see you in the next one.